Herzlich willkommen zurück zum Sky Talk. Ja, wir befinden uns aktuell hier im wunderschönen, vernebelten Berlin und hinter mir der Zoopalast. Hier fand gestern die Premiere zu The Day of the Jackal mit Eddie Redmayne und Lashana Lynch statt. Und jetzt begeben wir uns in dieses Hotel in den 27. Stock für einen Sky Talk und reden ein bisschen darüber, wie hat es Ihnen gestern gefallen und was passierte sonst so hinter den Kulissen bei The Day of the Jackal.
Wer ist die Zielperson?
Hello, welcome back.
Nice to see and you. How are you?
I'm very excited. It's like this whole setting, but the thing is, like, also, like, we are in a rush because, like, you know, you have an international tour that we have to go through. So this is pretty much my first personal question at this point. Going through this type of tour, everybody thinks, oh, that's very glamorous, like 5-star hotels and all of those kind of things. Yesterday, it kind of seems like to you, for me, that it's like a birthday party.
I love it. I love getting to travel the world. I remember when I was starting out, I had friends who started doing these press tours earlier and they would go, you know, it's actually really difficult because you just go to these amazing hotels, but you never have any time to kind of do anything in the city. And I was like, don't be ridiculous. You can always just stumble outside your hotel. And the more I've done it, you realize the truth in that it is kind of bonkers that you get to travel the world, but you don't get a real sense of place because you're always moving on to the next. But I always find if you go out the hotel, take a walk. I have some friends in Berlin, so on the first night I went out for supper, went to their home, saw their kids. Trying to get memories, differentiate the experience is wonderful. But no, I do enjoy it. Do you?
Yeah, I do enjoy it. Do you? I do enjoy it. I just find that, like, let's leave the hotel and, like, do something and meet up with people. I find that a challenge. I find it a challenge during filming, and I find it a challenge during press because there's so much to do and there's so much to talk about that at the end of the day, I'm literally just like a potato on the yeah, completely exhausted. Though some locations you visit, you have friends or there's something you didn't get to do the last time you were here. Like, I haven't been to Berlin in like 8 years, I think. And I said, when I get here, I'm gonna like see all the things. Yeah, and now we're leaving today. So yeah, it is a little like a birthday party where you're like, yeah 2 seconds, I'll just, and then you never see people again. And
that's exactly what it seemed yesterday. Yeah. Talking about The Day of the Jackal, which is based on the book by Frederick Forsyth, did you actually get his blessings when it came to that? Or is it like, well, listen, like 71 is so way back, we're gonna do our own thing, we don't even care what you have to say about it?
Well, he was an exec producer on the piece and our writer, Ronan Bennett, like everyone who made this show had great respect for the book and the original. But it's a completely new thing. It's set now, which obviously shifts things. But one of the things that I love is it kind of retains some of the DNA from the original. So there are moments, exact lines that are quoted from the book. There are moments in which actual shots from the original Zinnemann movie are sort of copied literally beat by beat. So hopefully for people who've never seen the original movie or the book, it will feel fresh and new. And for people that have and love the book and the film, there will be kind of Easter eggs that kind of bleed in.
You pretty much like already answered like a question that I was just about to ask, because exactly that's what I felt, because just through that series, so far I just had seen like the 97 version. So this
I haven't seen that one. That's the Bruce Willis and Richard Gere. I'm gagging to see that.
I don't want to be judgmental about it, but it's that through the show, then I started like watching the 73 version. I consider them as Easter eggs, let's say it without spoiling too much. The hardware, some fruits, and exactly some of the expressions.
That's a good way of putting it, yeah.
This is what I really was like, oh, that's impressive. But beyond that, maybe what were like the biggest challenges actually just by porting that story, which happened like in the 70s with that kind of historical person that has actually part of the story to today?
My journey in it, honestly, was very different because as soon as you, not directly replace, but you announce to the world, we are having a woman in this position, just changes everything for me. The dynamic, the energy, the ways in which you tell stories for female narratives in this space. Considering it's espionage and we don't get to dive into a woman being, you know, at charge in the workspace, but not quite in charge in the home space and battling with that, that's very new. So I found that my research, it felt separate to the research that I did from the original. I had like bite sizes of things that I had to kind of piece together in order for it to make sense. But it felt like a new way of modernizing, if you like. Similar to my experience with No Time to Die, that we'd never seen it before, so we kind of got to figure out what this looks like now. It was a fresh take, and I like that. I had trust in you and the whole production that we were going to honour and respect the original, that was already taken care of, you know, and I didn't have to come in and add my piece in relation to that. I had the other side in modernising it to make it feel like the younger audiences could feel like they were getting their new experience too, because they didn't know the original.
But it's interesting that you say so, because like for me, maybe I'm like too modern because I wasn't really surprised about like having, because sometimes you really feel like it's pushed into the narrative in order just, well, we need to have like a female role, but I think that every role absolutely made sense because there's just like not only one type of woman in this whole show. I mean, again, I cannot spoil, you know, it really feels that it was really modern. Also like the Jackal itself, you would imagine like really having like a bodybuild type of like Jack Reacher type of agent these days, but you also seem to be like a modern version of the elite killer.
I love that you say that. I tried really hard to bodybuild. That's as bodybuild as that's like me at my most bodybuild. No, I totally agree. But one of the things I think is interesting in the update is in the original film, it was very much good versus evil. The Jackal was very much evil, albeit charismatic, and the Michael Lonsdale character, the Bianca character, was good. And what I find interesting about what Ronan, our writer, has done is there's every character in this has qualities that are good and qualities that are morally dubious. Like from Bianca, certainly the Jackal, to the UDC, the character that he's trying to sort of take down. And I think that that's a shift in the world. This idea of good or bad feels sort of naive nowadays, whereas this idea of the blurry grey territory is kind of intriguing.
Well, you really proved that it's really about the technique, because like at certain moments I was like, that's not, he did? Yeah. Oh yeah, that absolutely makes sense. But having like a 10-series show, I mean, how long did like the shooting take altogether?
8 months.
8 months.
Yeah.
That was long.
That's a huge commitment. I mean, was it either easy because, you know, you had enough time to develop, or is it actually difficult just to maintain that character? Because it also does something with you as a person, doesn't it?
I was shooting Bob Marley while I got this, so I was in my calm zone and ready to not do stunts for a while. And when this came on board, I had to like re-engage my body and my spirit in order to undertake this. And I did find it helpful being set in one place. For the 8 months, we were based out of Budapest in Hungary for that time, and we danced around and we have some beautiful locations in the show. But to know that you have a wardrobe somewhere with your suitcase is always really, really lovely. And also because of the cat and mouse chase in the show, there were, I think the first few weeks, maybe 6 weeks, was Eddie would be on and then I'd like go back to London and then vice versa. So that's helpful, but also like, completely separate, you know.
It was like making two movies in some ways. We barely ever got to see each other or share screen time. And I would sort of call Lashana and she would be filming with one crew in London and I'd be in Croatia filming with her. What's kind of intriguing is that it is two stories and yet how they're on this one-way kind of collision course towards each other.
Talking about the craft as an actor, because a lot of things have changed, like the way that movies are produced, but also like the way that they're distributed these days. I mean, I'm having arguments about like, I want to binge it at once. I'm fine with one episode every week. For you, I mean, the thing is like you on a promo tour right now for something that you did like in the past, so sometimes you have to like recall, oh yeah, what was it like back in the days? But now having also like executive producer, is it that you actually watch on that project in a different way now that every week you will have a report about how the show performed? Is that something that you worry about, or you leave that absolutely out of your creative process or as a person?
Well, all those conversations are really interesting at the beginning, deciding if we're going to drop 5 or 3, or if you do the whole thing, because I know some shows do that, and what's worthwhile for the audience. What experience do you really want? Do you want to have the entire thing and then regret watching it in one go? I would. I want to be able to honour where we've taken TV these days and give the opportunity to binge some, and then also honour where we've come from in TV, which is let's wait a week and have that anticipation and create conversation around each episode. But with producing, I think the kinds of conversations we were able to dive into, we were, I think, changing the landscape of how this is done, or at least discussing how we do that, so that we're not just going the typical way and giving audiences what they usually expect. And I think that's created some really nice discussions over time, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that there was something that I found unique about this is normally you're right, like when you perform in a piece, you do it and then 9 months, a year later, the thing comes out and you're talking about it and you feel distanced and remote from it. But because we've been working through the edit process and we were talking about the title sequence or the score a week ago, you know, like it feels much more present.
Yeah.
Don't you find it?
Yeah, definitely. You know, there's certain things with VFX and like music choices and
for episode 10.
Episode 10, exactly. We're like, how's that going to land? We don't know. We're still, you know, figuring it out. And I think that's nice. I always love to see how the sausage is made because then you get to get into the nooks and crannies of like...
It's the granular
in
of the sausage.
granular, exactly. And that granular is literally our shared word. I think that's...
Like we like to get into the detail.
Yeah.
When this whole idea was like pitched to you, was it also kind of a foreseen with the audience today? Because we just said about like the different way of perception of like TV shows and like the movies in general. What do you think is it that actually is going to make it really appealing to the audience nowadays?
I hope that it is. When I read these scripts, both of us read 3 scripts. That's how we were lured into this book. And I just found it so propulsive. I wanted to turn the page. I wanted to see what happened to these characters. I liked that you had these people who were ferociously talented, these characters, but who were obsessive and who were naughty, who were not easy to define. So as well as you having the thrill from the action and the kind of the thriller element, there was also something deeply human to both of the characters that I felt it traversed different genres in a way that felt fresh to me.
Yeah, that's kind of what you want to see when you read a script, a film script or a few episodes. You want to be able to have diversity. You want to have a playground whereby you can bounce from genre to genre but also be able to like stretch yourself as an artist. And also in the producer mind, you want to know the audience are going to say, yes, this is a great action-packed thing that's going to have loads of stunts and it's going to be high octane the entire time, but then bring them back into this really grounded, granular, detailed characters that really bring you along. You're brought along with the story because of how much you feel for them. And I think with the absence of that, it just remains an action thing that came and went and didn't have any impact. And I think this is the stark, you know, difference between some others.
Would you like to see that this is going to give you like a chance just to like, you know, open new doors for other things so that people want actually just going back to your past? Because you played some characters, played in some franchises that are really important. I mean, you saying like, well, Newt Scamander apparently is not going to continue for that matter. Is that really something that you said like, well, I'm done with everything else that I did in the past and now... What is that we can expect now from you, Eddie?
It's only when people ask questions going, what's the future of something? And the truth is you don't know.
Yeah, like, but you've projects on the... I mean, maybe
there are things that
you signed some NDAs, I get it, but...
There are things that you're working on, but I love pushing myself outside of my comfort zone. And what I found thrilling about this particular character is that because he's kind of an actor and he's consistently pushing himself outside of this comfort zone, playing these different people, is... I got to do that playing him, but also hopefully as an audience you get to see behind the curtain into what that process is when actors are sort of doing that. And so it felt a bit meta on some level.
And in your case, because you said you were really glad that with Bob Marley you didn't really have to go through so many stunt things, but this project, the Dark Pictures Anthology, Directive 8020, it's a video game and you are part of that? That doesn't mean I don't want to do anything with the cameras anymore, I'm just going to do voiceover?
Can you imagine? Gosh, no, I like to do everything. I mean, I really love using voice and I want to do that more. That was a time in my life when I thought, how cool would it be if I always see Benedict Cumberbatch in, you know, those clips of him
doing
crawling on the ground. And I'm like, oh, I've not done that yet. And you know, as artists,
it's extraordinary that clip, by the way. When he plays it, it's Schmorg.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, maybe I could do that. What would it look like? And the video game was a nice chance to explore just being in a dark room in your own clothes, but just focusing on facial expressions and voice.
Have you done it?
Yeah.
Wow, God, I'm desperate to hear how that was.
I know, it was brilliant actually, really lovely. But then in enjoying that for the few weeks you're doing it, you then miss being on camera in the way that you love and have enjoyed for many years. So I said yes, tools down for stunts, and then this came in my inbox and it was absolutely undeniable, and now here I am really, you know, happy and grateful. Tools up completely, and now I'm like, am I gonna have to keep tools up? I don't know, because I also love drama and comedy and romance and all these other things I haven't explored yet. So keeping versatile.
But it's also one of the glorious things and the weird things about our job is you just never know. You never know what the next thing that might come round is. And so you can try and have strategy and plans, and I feel like you're better at that than me at going, this is the sort of thing I want to do. But then, as with this was not what, you know, Lashana was looking to do in any way, shape or form.
Yeah.
And yet when something comes and just like pulls an instinct in you, you feel obliged, I suppose.
Yeah, and even when something comes up and you're like, that's absolutely happening, sometimes it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Sometimes things take a long time to develop, or they get pushed, or things change, or, you know, creative differences, anything, and then suddenly you're on another path and you thought, oh, actually, no, this was the path I needed to go down. Maybe that was for 5 years from now. And you're never gonna know, because you just see our careers as what they are.
Yeah.
And then it seems like it's all like completely planned, but actually there's a lot of
And I'm more than grateful that actually you shared that, because that's what we always try and within the Sky Talk, also shown that this is a craft, that it takes a lot of work. Thank you so much. Congratulations on this really great show. I hope that you get all the appreciation for that matter. It's too bad that we couldn't talk too much about things that are very impressive but would spoil everything.
Yeah.
I highly recommend just to see that show, and highly hope just that we see each other again then. Thank you so much, Eddie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was lovely.
Thank you
so much.
Na, das war doch mal richtig schön. Und wer sich spätestens jetzt mal mit vergangenen Projekten von den beiden Darstellern auseinandersetzen möchte, hier unsere Programmhinweise. Also wäre natürlich als erstes, erst vor kurzem noch hier darüber gesprochen, Bob Marley, One Love, wo ja Lashana Lynch die Frau von Bob Marley spielt und auch da mal wieder auch so zeigt, was es bedeutet, auch wirklich eine sehr imposante Frauenrolle darzustellen. Absolut empfehlenswert, vor allem auch, wenn man Reggae mag. Dann für mich eigentlich einer der Hits des Jahres 2022, meines Erachtens immer noch total underrated, The Woman King, wo es tatsächlich um weibliche Soldaten in Afrika geht. Ich möchte nicht allzu viel über diesen Plot erzählen, aber auch da hat einfach Lashana Lynch eine Performance abgeliefert, wo ich dachte so, wow, die ist großartig. Und da war ich doch nicht so überzeugt von dem, als es denn um James Bond ging. Wir wissen ja, durch die Epidemie hat es ja ewig lange gedauert, bis nun endlich Keine Zeit zu sterben in die Kinos kam. Aber als er denn kam, war auch endlich mal klar, ja, eigentlich gibt es die erste, nicht nur schwarze, sondern auch weibliche Doppel-07, nämlich 007, dargestellt von Lashana Lynch. Und das ist, glaube ich, für mich einer der besten Filme aus der Reihe mit Daniel Craig. Also, wenn ihr den immer noch nicht gesehen habt, auch das Ende möchte ich nicht spoilern, ist für mich etwas sehr Versöhnliches und als langjähriger James Bond-Fan kann ich absolut damit leben. Aber sollte es tatsächlich mal jetzt darum gehen, eine neue Persona im Kontext von 007 zu haben, Lashana würde das auf jeden Fall rocken. Und dann hätten wir natürlich auch noch etwas mit Eddie Redmayne. Ich sage es ganz offen, Fantastische Tierwesen ist tatsächlich eher was mich eher anspricht als die komplette Harry Potter Serie. Das ist jetzt kein Grund zum Streiten, aber Eddie Redmayne verkörpert einfach tatsächlich so seine Rolle so extrem gut, macht es extrem sympathisch und man findet so einen Zugang zu dieser ganzen Harry Potter Welt in einer Art und Weise, wie man sie zuvor nicht kannte und noch immer sehr sehenswert. Also Fantastische Tierwesen, alle 3 Teile natürlich im Sky Store zu finden. Und dann, last but not least, aus dem Jahre 2015, The Danish Girl. Ein Film, der jetzt etwas umstritten ist, weil viele Leute der Auffassung sind, dass tatsächlich jemand, der eben auch eine Transperson darstellt, auch selbst eigentliche Erfahrungen haben sollte. Darüber wollen wir nicht streiten. Der Film bleibt nach wie vor halt sehr beeindruckend. Eddie Redmayne hat eine großartige Performance abgeliefert. Die Geschichte des Malers, der dann plötzlich auf einmal feststellt, dass etwas in ihm halt ruht, was halt raus möchte. Und genau diesen Weg wird dargestellt in The Danish Girl. It's a wrap, wie man im International Movie Business ja sozusagen pflegt. Aber tatsächlich, die Frage ist das okay für euch? Können wir ruhig noch mehr von diesen Ausgaben haben, wo wir internationale Gäste haben, wo wir dann nicht unbedingt Deutsch sprechen? Schreibt das gerne in die Kommentare, weil ihr seid ja eh wahrscheinlich abonniert hast du schon. Wunderbar. Mehr brauche es halt nicht. Aber solltest du jemand sein, der zum Beispiel ja erst durch diese Folge erst zu uns gestoßen ist, du, wir haben jetzt noch mehr im Angebot, wie zum Beispiel diese Folge hier oder auch diese, Zucker. Ich verspreche es. Also, gerne in die Kommentare schreiben und hoffentlich bis zum nächsten Mal. Ich freue mich drauf.